Oh, Joe just snuck in. Hi, Joe. Uh, Field day was just last month, and it was a great time. And so I thought I would share some photos of field day with the Boy Scout troop and some of the antics that went on and some of the rebuilds. And we had a tough time, a tough go. And we'll get more into that in a bit. So let's where's my cursor? Share screen. This one. Okay, we'll move this over here. Put this where you can see it, and full screen. Okay. So uh, all in all, I thought field day was a success. We got a bunch of people together. We set up a bunch of equipment. We repaired a bunch of equipment. We actually got it working, and we made as many contacts as we could with the conditions that we had to work with. And I think everybody had a lot of fun. Um, there's some frustrating moments in there, but all in all, I think it was a good time. And so the first thing, of course, that when we arrive is we have to start setting everything up. And so, you know, putting up the tower, this is a what's called a rocket launcher. So it's an old military tower. It has a base, and then you can crank up tubes up through the middle of it, and it goes up, I think, about 45 or 50 feet. Um, Pretty easy to set up. It just takes time, and part of that time is making sure the base is perfectly level. So there were lots of supervisors around while Scotty made sure that it was level, and then we incrementally tightened all three guide wires to get the base securely tied down to the ground so it wouldn't move. And that probably took us, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half, just trying to set up the base. And then came time to build all the antennas. And so um, the antennas were actually in the Heber area, I believe, just at another site. And these particular antennas hadn't been used for quite some time. And so, of course, we got them all put together the first time, and we thought, great, let's get on the air and test them out. Well, not so quick. They didn't work. We ended up taking them completely apart and fixing a lot of the connections between the elements. And I think we even fixed one of the traps, which I hate traps. But anyway, we got it to make connection and got them working, and finally. And and so by that time, it's early evening. So you can see the sun is starting to go down, and we actually took the antennas apart and put them back together a couple of times, maybe three times. Um, and but they eventually did work. They eventually tuned where they were supposed to, and on the top is a 6 meter beam, a five element beam. 6 meters never opened, so it never got used. We tried and tried, but nobody was there. Well, maybe they made one contact with the Marca group, I think, perhaps. I don't recall. But essentially it wasn't used. And the other antenna was a 10, 15, 20 meter tribander, a three element with traps on it to get the other bands. And once we got it all set up and working, it worked pretty well. About this time in the evening, when we finally got all the antennas working, we discovered that, unknown to us, earlier that day, because this is Friday, so Friday afternoon, Friday night, we discovered that, oh, the sun had a massive coronal mass ejection. And so basically it wiped out all the bands 20 meters and above. And so we didn't make a lot of contacts on those bands, a few, but it was really tough going, especially on sideband to make contacts. And so we spent a lot of time on 40, and when it got later in the evening on 80 meters. But 20 was really tough. 15 was almost impossible. And from our location, 10 meters was non-existent. I don't think we made even one contact, but on 10. But in any event, uh, we did get everything together and working. We did actually crank it all the way up. So we got the tower completely up in the air, and all the antennas working. It was pretty close to midnight when we finally got it all working Friday night. and so, but it was all together. And so we hit the bed, and we're going to get some sleep so that the next day at 11 o'clock we could start, get on the air and start making contacts for field day. And of course, once we did get it up in the air, it gets kind of windy up in the Heber area. And so we wanted to make sure that the top guide wires were actually tight and not flopping around. And so we're all watching from a different tie-off point to make sure that we don't pull too hard on any one guide wire and pull the whole tower over on top of us. so we're watching and making sure that it's staying level and vertical. And we managed to do that without toppling the tower. So how did we do? So we didn't make a ton of contacts, but I think we made quite a few given the conditions. We made about 400 contacts. Most of them were made using digital modes, so using FT8 and FT4. I think Scotty made roughly 100 CW contacts, and most of those I think were on 80 meters on Saturday night, till the wee hours of the morning. And I found him asleep at the radio when I woke up and started working the radio again. So I'm not sure when he actually fell asleep and what, how many hours he worked. A lot of people tried working sideband, and they were pulling teeth trying to get those 100 sideband contacts. It was really, really tough. And so the digital contacts, well, they were easy. You just let the computer do the decoding and keep clicking on call signs. and the nice thing was that, well, they were 2 points apiece, just like CW contacts. So if we had all 3 stations running simultaneously, FT8, we could have made a lot more contacts. We had just one sideband station, one CW station, and then one digital station. And we were running 2 alpha with the extra GOTA station. So that was an extra HF station, the get on the air station, and the extra VHF station. So the 6 meter station, although we didn't make any contacts there either, or none, not a significant number. So we had 4 radios available, but we only operated 2 at any one time most of the time. And once in a great while, we'd be running all 3. But the sideband, like I said, was with the sun acting up, was just atrocious. It was really tough to pull out the call signs. So the radios, we used TS590s. they're really nice radio if you haven't run them. They're typical Kenwood. They've got all the most used functions come out to a button so that you can have ready access to it. And they had 3 of those available. We only set 2 of them up. Scotty also brought the TS50s, which came inside of uh, what do you call it? 3U, I think, or 2U cases. So it had the computer, it had the screen, the keyboard, the radio, everything in one box, and all the hookups come out to the backside of the box. So it's really easy to set them up. He also had a TS60 for 6 meters, and but so we had the old radios and we had the new stuff. The TS50 60s, those are like 1980s vintage radios, whereas the 590, of course, is within the last 10 years. And so it was a combined effort, Scottsdale Club and the 599 Post. So we had 3 members from Scottsdale show up, and I can't remember if it was 7 or 8 from the Post that showed up. Some of the advisors and then some of the past Post members came. The Post currently does not have any youth members. If you happen to know any youth members or youth that would like to become a member, please get in contact with Scotty, WA2DFI, and he can bring them up to speed on the Post 599 and the activities that they do. But there's a lot of past Post members that are active in the club and keep things going and do a nice job. Most of those past Post members are in their 30s now, so they really need youth members. But I think everybody had a lot of fun. I think we had a lot of laughter, and when we were rebuilding the antennas for the 3rd time, there was lots of joking around. Yeah, you screwed that up. But it was all the antennas. Everything else seemed to work pretty well. We did have some issues with getting FT8 set up. The original small box computers that were intended to be used for logging and that sort of thing, they're very tiny, about the size of a 2 or 3 inch cube. I think, what was it called? A Chewy computer. They work just fine as long as you're not trying to do decodes. So if you're trying to run FT8 and the logging software and the control software for the radio and something else, they just don't have enough horsepower. And so what we ended up doing was, luckily one of the members had brought their laptop, and so we ditched the little Chewy computer and borrowed their laptop, loaded all the software on it, and got all the connections hooked up and working properly, and at least put that digital station on the air. So it took us probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours to figure out what was actually wrong with the Chewy computer and when it would die and what would cause that. And then we decided we just got to have something different. And so between the troubleshooting and the actual implementation, we probably spent, I don't know, 3-4 hours. But we did get it on the air eventually, about, I think, an hour and a half into the contest, about 12:30 or so. And it made quite a few contacts. And so of course, on Sunday morning, about 11 o'clock, we were actually eligible to run a few more hours past 11 in the morning. But of course, 90+% of the people that are operating, they all quit when because they can only operate. You have to meet some eligibility requirements in order to get the extra 3 hours, I think it is, to operate. Well, almost everybody, most people don't meet those requirements, so they all stop. There's nobody to make contact with. So we ended up quitting right around 12 o'clock, and because we just couldn't make any more contacts. Weren't enough people close enough to us. And so we started packing up, and I'm just standing out there in the middle, picking up the last bits of antenna and cable and whatnot. The other guys had pretty much taken the tower down. I guess you can see it. It's in the foreground. It's right here in the pack. All the tubes packed up. Of course, when you're taking things apart, it always goes much faster. Just take it all down, wrap it up, and stick it in the truck. And so it took us, I think, about 12 hours. Well, and a little bit the next day. So maybe it took more like 16 hours to get everything up and running. And it took us probably about 2 to 3 hours to take everything down and pack it all up and head out. So we probably left the Heber area at I think it was maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon. By the time we got in the vehicles and started heading for Phoenix, but I think everybody enjoyed it, and we're going to make some changes, and hopefully next year we'll do better. But it was a great time. The Kingstons, that's the place that we held the field day at. Great people. Everybody paid a few dollars, and they took care of us for food and drinks, and just real great hospitality, great fellowship, getting to know other new people. Because I hadn't met several of the post members in the past, but great group, and look forward to seeing them all again next year. But does anybody have any questions? What was that, John? I'm sorry. You know, I unfortunately did not take pictures of the operating positions, um, but we did on this porch. This piece of a porch you see, it actually runs all along the entire north side of the house, and so it's probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 feet deep, and I don't know, 30, 35 feet long, maybe a little longer. And we were on one half of it. So to the right of this image is where, well, you actually can see a little bit. There's one plastic folding table here. We had, I think, 3 or 4 of these tables. Yeah, we set up on the porch. Yeah. We were outside. It was nice and cool, and because the porch faces north, the cover over the top provided plenty of shade in the morning and in the afternoon, as well as, of course, all day. Um, they had some covers on the ends to block the early morning sun and the late evening sun. So it was great. Uh, it was nice and cool, of course, up in Heber. It was probably, I don't know, 75, 80 degrees. Um, but we had all the stations set up to the right in this image, and all, of course, all outside. Um, and all the computers were networked so that if you made a contact on station one, it got registered and everybody could see it at all the other stations. So they all talk to each other. Are there any other questions? No questions? I think that was, yeah, that was my last slide. Let's see, it's, oops, go this way. Well, if nobody has any questions, thanks everybody for coming. Just a quick note. Um, was it last weekend? Was the I think it was no the weekend whatever day it was, the Flagstaff Ham Fest. I don't remember if it was last weekend or the weekend. I think it was the weekend before. Anyway, I met a yeah, the weekend before. Thank you. Uh, I met I had met him before, Tom Schiller, N6BT. Um, he's the founder or was the founder of Force 12 antennas. He gave a talk right at the end of the Flagstaff Hamfest. Awesome talk, discussing a little bit about Force 12, and then talking about his new company, where he's making antennas for everybody else. And so, especially folks that live in HOAs and that sort of thing. So he has a whole series of antennas that he's been building, I think, for the last 15 years or so, maybe a little longer, that are specifically for folks that live in HOAs. They're low observable. You can quickly pop them up in the evening or lay them down, that sort of thing. And he I have two of his antennas, his Force 12 antennas, that were designed back in the 90s, and I absolutely love them. And he described his methodology on how he builds and tests, and not only electrically tests but mechanically tests the antennas. And I'm trying to get him signed up for a future meeting here at the ARA. They live up in Kingman, so they're not very close, but he says that his wife enjoys coming down to the Phoenix area. And so hopefully our schedules will mesh at some point, and we'll have him here to speak for the ARA and talk about his latest book that he self-published. I think it's the fourth edition now of his antenna book. But I thought it was a fantastic talk, and he gave tons of examples and talked about things that don't work and things that do work, and why they work. And so I hope to get him signed up to present. But if anybody knows of anybody that has a topic to present, please shoot me an email and we'll get you on the schedule or get them on the schedule. Any topic, ham radio, computer related, it doesn't necessarily have to be ham radio, but I'd prefer it to be ham radio or ham related. There's lots of subjects that are related, so don't feel that a topic you have might not be close enough. Shoot us an email or shoot me an email, and let's talk about it and see what you have, what you'd like to present. But in any event, thanks for coming tonight, and I look forward to seeing everybody next month.